Hi, my name's Jason, and today we're going to make a candle. But before we get into that, I'm going to give you guys a little backstory into how I got into candle making. So I first started making candles in 2020 during one of the lockdowns. It was one of my side hustles. It first started off with Amazon FBA, selling toys, things like that. And then I had an idea one day that actually I could probably make something and build a brand. So that's when I conjured up the candle idea. After doing a little bit of research, I found a gap in the market on Amazon and figured I could probably get some FBA products in there. And that's when Suffolk Candles was born. When I first started making the candles, I thought it'd be really easy, but it's actually pretty damn hard. Candle making is actually pretty complex. There's so many different types of wax, wicks, jars, so many variables, so it really is quite hard to work out where to begin. I'm hoping this video will cut it all short and show you the clear path in terms of how to make your first decent candle. So it's currently -5 outside, and I'm standing in a field talking about candles. So let's get back inside and I'll show you how to do it. Right, we're back inside the warm, let's get to it.
So we're going to turn this, these, and this jar into a fully functional candle. But let's not forget the scent, because we want it to smell nice as well. We're going to combine all of those ingredients into a fully functional candle.
Now that the wax is melting, we need to wick our jars. So I've got a very high-tech solution, which is a biro that I've taken out the middle, and then put a little bit of masking tape around the edge, just to create a bit of resistance. So I put my wick in there, and then use that to dot it down. A lot of people use like dot stickers. I've found this gasket silicone to be the best option, as it's heat proof. So when your candles get hot towards the bottom, the wicks don't move around. This is perfect. This isn't an original idea, it's something I stole from Stanley Handcrafted, so thank you for that one. Works perfect. There are lots of other ways you can stick your wicks in your jars. You can use wickums, like those little stickers I mentioned earlier. You can use glue guns, all sorts. There's lots of different methods, but like I said, the gasket silicone, that's what works for me.
Now the wicks I'm using for these candles are CL14 wicks. They come from Candle Shack. After extensive testing, with the jars I'm using and the wax I'm using, which is SCX coconut soy wax, these work perfectly. I get a nice even clean burn all the way down to the bottom. There's a lot of different wicking options. As you can see, this is my drawer of wicks. I've got all sorts in there, TCR wicks, Eco wicks, Candle Shack wicks, all different sizes for different things. So with anything, especially candle making, you're going to need to do some testing, work out what works for you, and just play around with it. It can be tedious, but it's definitely worth it.
Now we're melting, making some good soup.
So what I'm going to use today to melt the wax is a soup kettle. You can get this relatively cheap on eBay. This one cost me about 35 quid. And I can heat about 10 litres of liquid in. I can't work that out in wax exactly, but I can make about 25 candles in one go, so it's pretty wicked. Alternatively, you can use a Presto pot like this, which is really quick, really handy to heat up small amounts of wax, but I can't do quite as much as the soup kettle. This one also has a little handy spout for pouring your wax. Alternatively, if you're new to candle making, you can just use a double boiler. So we've got a saucepan here that we're going to put some water in, and then we'll heat that up, and then in this container here, that will melt the wax.
The double boiler method is a quick way to get started. The only downside is you can't do that many candles at once.
Once the wax is fully melted to 70 degrees, we can get going with our pouring and candle making.
Right, the next step, we need to probe our wax, just to make sure it's at the right temperature. So I've got a cheap little probe here, cost about £5 from eBay. So I'm going to probe the wax, make sure it's 70 degrees, and then we'll start pouring. Right, now the next bit you need to work out how much wax your container can hold. See, I know for a fact my containers over here can hold 250 grams of wax. So, what I'm going to do now is pour 1,000 grams of wax into a jug, let that cool down to about 60 degrees, and then I'm going to pull the scent into it.
So now we've poured all the wax, we're just going to let that cool down to 60 degrees, and then we're going to pour in our fragrance oil. I don't want to pour the fragrance oil too hot because I think it will burn off a lot of the scent. So I add it at 60 degrees, and then I give it a good stir just to make sure everything gets absorbed nicely. Leave it to sit until it gets to about 50 degrees, and then I pour the pour the wax into my candle jars.
Once again we wait. Candle making is quite a methodical process. It takes quite a bit of time and it's quite relaxing, so just enjoy it. Enjoy the process, no need to rush, it all takes its time. The next job is to add the scent. Now there's lots of different places you can buy scents from. Some of my favourite places are Mystic Moments. We've got one from Craftivator, Pure Scented, and one of my other favourites is Fresh Skin. Now these companies all have their pros and cons, but that's something I'll talk about in another video. But for today's video, we're going to use Patchouli and Rose and Lavender. These are both fragrance oils, which are a bit different to essential oils, but that's also something else I'll talk about in another video.
Perfect, we're almost there. So we're going to start getting everything ready, start weighing out the scent, and then we'll let it cool down.
We're going to use an 8 to 9% fragrance load for our candles.
It's been a very busy week, so please don't judge the state of my jars.
Time for one more little break. Then we'll pour the candle wax into our jars once it gets down to about 50 degrees, and then we're pretty much done. So we're back. The wax is at 50 degrees, so it's time to pour the rest of it. The next job is to secure our wick. So I've got these fancy little custom made ones which fit perfectly for my jars, or you can get these metal ones from most candle shops. They work quite nice and easily. Failing that, you can use these little food clips. They work well, I've used them before. Or alternatively, you can get some like chopsticks or skewers. You can tie them together, secure your wicks, or pegs. You just need something to get your wick nice and central. And that's it done. We've completed the candles, we just need to let them set. Could take a couple of hours for them to set, but I'll show you that later. And that's it, just let them cure, let all the sort of fragrance oils and the wax combine together so you get a nice fragrance candle. That can take up to a week. Sometimes people recommend 2 weeks, but it's really up to you for your own testing. But that's it, basically done. We'll have a look at these once they're set. But you can see how fast these are setting. Not even been 10 minutes yet, so even after half an hour, we're starting to get a nice set on the candles. So it won't take too long until they're perfect. And so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to show you some I prepared earlier. So here's some candles from about a week ago. But you get a lovely, lovely glass adhesion with the wax. Nice smooth tops if you've done it right. Then once it's all made, we can package it up, put some labels on it, lid it, put the CLP labels on the bottom, and then we've got something ready to sell. And that's it done. That's your first candle made. Hopefully you've liked the video. If you have, give it a thumbs up and a like down below, and subscribe to my channel for more candle related content.